This video is rated 18, suitable only for persons of 18 and over.
I have you.
Hello YouTube, LJ Draco here. Yes, my lighting still isn't working, as you can see. The lighting only seems to work when I do up close videos with the flash on the back of my camera. I'm actually recording this from the front, which is why you'll always get this weird orangey dark tint around me. So as you can tell by the title on the thumbnail, this is a 3D Blu-ray review of Disney Pixar's Onward. Now, I know I kind of look like I don't want to be doing this review, and to be honest, I don't. Not because, you know, when I try and talk about this film, I'm not going to lie, I do get really emotional, and I'm not going to get into details of why. I will not be talking anything about the story, because if I start, that's when I'm going to start crying. So this is purely just a 3D review only. Just about the 3D. I'm not even going to give you a little bit about the story. Nope. I can't. So, right. Disney Pixar's Onward 3D is a fantastic Disney 3D release, and I'll get into why. So, this film has shown me some things that I didn't think I could enjoy with a 3D presentation. So for example, this film, I'd say, is about 60-40, 40 pop, 60 depth. As you guys know, I'm all keen for a 50-50, and I wish this was. However, this film only needs pop for very specific scenes. And if this film had pop for scenes where it wasn't really needed, it would feel very, very odd. I don't think it would have portrayed very well. And I think that if they'd added pop into the scenes where it didn't need it, it would have actually made the presentation look really, really off. I think it would have ruined what this does. So I'm saying about 60% of this movie requires just depth alone. And for once in my life, I am fully satisfied with that option, because this movie has a lot of places, a lot of scenery that requires more depth, and I've had this argument with people before, where people say 3D is not about the pop, it's all about the depth. The pop is just something they add. No, the whole point of 3D is it's three-dimensional, which means not only does it stretch far and go really deep within, but stuff comes to you as well. That is the whole point. It's hand in hand. But as I'm saying, with this film, 60% of this movie only needs the depth. And yet again, it only needs depth in certain scenes. Like, I noticed that there's some scenes where the depth is slightly flatter than it is in other scenes. However, it's flatter in scenes, because not everything in our world looks fully three-dimensional. Like when you lean something against a shelf or a wall, some angles of it looks slightly, if this makes sense to people, it looks slightly 2D, but it's not. There's obviously, you could put your hand around there, but there's only like a miniature gap. Like your fingers, there's only like a mini gap between your fingers here, right? But if you obviously put your finger out to grab it, you can still grab it. And that's what this film, this film actually has a lot of scenes like that. Like, it's not a story bit, but there's a scene obviously where the older brother's driving his van, and you can see minor depth behind the gaps of the steering wheel, which looks quite realistic. I mean, I'm trying to think of a perfect term, but it's natural 3D. Like, it's like life 3D. It's not over the top 3D, like really far depth in places where it's obviously not that far, or really sticky out scenes where there's nothing really to stick out. So what I'm saying is, I freaking love the fact that the depth on this works well. And the pop scenes, I can promise you now, those pop scenes, when they happen, are very special moments, because you're enjoying 60% of this movie in just depth. So you're thinking, okay, this is still a pretty good 3D film, but I wish there was something that would just jump out at me. And then you'll be hit by just 1 second. Well, not like a second. I mean, there's some scenes with pop that last for quite a while. They're not like quick, like flashes. They last a while. But what I mean is, you'll go through this whole scene that's purely just depth, and then boom, you're hit by a really good pop out moment that just looks stunning. And I'm grateful. Now, this has to be my second favourite Pixar film of all time. My first will always be Toy Story 2. Monsters Inc. was actually my second. This has replaced Monsters Inc. for me, and I've loved Monsters Inc. since it first came out. But I'm not talking about the story, but I'm thinking about it. And I'll explain why the story... like I said, I'm not talking about the actual story, but I'll explain why this story specifically, I can't talk about it too much. Just like every time I know I watch this film, I'm going to struggle. So, for the story, I'm just going to do this rating as a whole. So, for the 2D and the 3D, and even though this is a 60-40 presentation, I've already explained why, but this movie gets a completely 5 out of 5 for both, because it's just a movie I did not expect, especially in times like this. Now, I did not expect this, so I highly recommend you pick this up. So here's why I'm not going to talk about the story, and I probably won't talk about the story ever to anybody. I mean, I might privately with people, but I would never do it on YouTube. And the reason is, this is a movie that is for, I would say, is for a very specific audience. Now, people may think that this is just a children's movie. I'm not going to lie, this is not a children's movie. Because the emotions in this movie are way too hard and too deep for children to be trying to understand at such a young age. Now, I'm one of those people who believe that the younger you teach them, the earlier they'll learn and they'll have a better life because they know this stuff already. However, this movie is all about loss and family struggle. Now, I know a lot of people probably seeing this movie are going, what family struggle? But if you know the story of the brothers and what the whole story is based on, then you know exactly what I mean. About 80% of this movie reminds me so much of my life and what's happened and what's happening in my life. And I was not expecting to be... I mean, don't get me wrong. I didn't cry until about, I'd say, the last 45-50 minutes of the film. No, I'd say about 40-30 minutes of the film. That's when I cried the most. But I cried for about 4 or 5 hours afterwards. And every time I try and talk about it, even with Alice, she asked me like why it was upsetting. I tried to talk, and I started almost breaking down again. And as I am so now, I'm trying to hold it in because it's ridiculous. But the thing is, I'm not one of those guys who tries to hide my emotions. I'm not going to sit there and go, it was a good film. No. If a film makes me cry, I will say it made me cry. And if people want to make fun, be nasty, poke the finger, so what? So what? All me crying does is proves that I'm fucking human. I'm fucking human. Like everyone else out there. I ain't afraid to admit that films make me cry. I'm happy they do. Because it reminds me that I'm human. And I'll never forget it. This film does hit really hard with me. And like I said, the last half an hour, 40 minutes, it got to me so much. And it was just consistent after consistent after consistent. That is why I probably will never talk on YouTube about the actual story. I'll never do like a full in-depth review on the story. I'll never get into plot, nothing like that, because it will break me. And I don't fancy crying a lot on the camera. I don't mind crying and admitting that I cry, but doing it on camera is a bit different story. Okay, I don't want to be doing that. Yeah, so like I said, 3D and the film, they both get a 5 out of 5 for me. This is one of the best Pixar movies to be thrown out in the past I'd say 5-10 years at most. I mean, this film was fucking way better than Incredibles 2. I mean, I am probably one of the only people that don't like Incredibles 2 that much. It's okay, it's a good sequel, but man, were we too fucking late on getting that sequel. It didn't. And don't get me wrong, it's not because the story was about Elastigirl. That's the only bit I liked about the film, was that the actual film of Toy Story 2 was mostly about Elastigirl. That was incredible. Incredible. Pun. No, but the script was off. The story was... They made her seem like she was... Oh, they made her seem like she had to prove something. The whole point of Elastigirl was she didn't have to prove shit. She was Elastigirl. She was one of the toughest, most badass female heroes of the world. And this whole film was about proving she's not just that stay-at-home mom anymore. She has to now prove she's the same awesome hero that she used to be. Just like... And that's another thing. They made it out to be exactly like the first film, but now with her. So everything that he did in the first film, that's now what she has to do. And I'm like, no, give her something more important. Give her a reason to do what she's doing, not just because he did it and now she can and she's got to prove. No, put her kids in danger. Put her town in danger. Give her a better story that could have at least made what she was doing more plausible than just, oh, now she's trying to copy what her husband did. No, because she's better than that. She deserved a better story than that. So for that reason alone, that film, I just felt so off with it. And I don't think I'm going to ever enjoy it on a second watch. But that, fuck. Onward, it hit me in so many ways. No film. I mean, I've cried at 100 films. For many different reasons. But this broke me. This didn't just make me cry, it broke. Like, no joke. If you ever get a chance to, like, talk to Alice about this on YouTube, she will confirm. After the film, she tried to ask me if I was okay, and I couldn't practically speak properly. I kept, like, missing out words from the sentence because I was still stuttering and stumbling from the whole, you know? Yeah, messed me up a bit. Yeah. But anyway, that's the end of this review. I hope that this was still helpful. I hope that you understand why certain things that I've said. I hope that you guys enjoy the film. And if you don't, let me know why you didn't. I mean, I can obviously understand certain reasons why people wouldn't enjoy this story. However, yet again, I said my second favourite Pixar film now. It just whoosh straight in there. Anyway, take care, you wonderful, wonderful people, and I shall see you next time. Bye.